Greetings, this is Warrior King, and the time has come for the lions and the lioness to tell their own story. This is the lion's voice. Give thanks and praise for the wonderful blessing that's been poured on me. Give thanks and praise. Jah use I as an instrument to set the people free. Jah give all the powers to chant. Jah give all the powers to chant. Rastafari, the lion's voice.
The titles within Rastafari, they're honorific, and we give thanks for that. However, the danger with that is that becomes so watered down that anyone can just use these things, and it causes confusion as to what is what at your core. And at the core, it should be solid. We want to rise the level of the discourse within the family right now, from personal attacks and the trauma and the confusion to forward movements. Have to prepare for what is to come. Dreadful times are here and dreadful times are ahead, and we have all of the keys in the family to sustain within a high manner during the calamity that is to come, through the ital livity, through the life that we live naturally. But we have to secure the economic foundation. We have to secure the family. We have to build the infrastructure of Zion. And then we have to make sure we have the correct culture. We need a Zion culture for living in Zion. Because if we come with the same culture, then wherever you go will turn to hell.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice. Well, I am the generation of those that chose to see the face of the great I am. With the Emperor Haile Selassie, King Rastafari of Ethiopia, well, he's the almighty creator, in flesh and in bone, and he's seated upon King David's throne. Well, I came to tell the nation on the microphone.
Yo, let them know righteousness is here to conquer. The Bingy King trample down those evilest monsters. Mussolini, he's getting burnt up like ganja. Our nation needs to get stronger. Give thanks, our locks is getting longer. The angel revealed the scriptures, the number 6, verse 5. My antenna channeling the heights of the Most High. Crown King of King, Lords of Lords. Now you do the math. Rastafari, comfort. I and I with the staff. Children of Israel, make sure you step on the right path. It's the 21st century. The wicked about to feel the wrath of the ancient of days. Emperor Haile Selassie, pure in all his ways. That's why I KWASI and I praise the Naya Bingy King. Let the children know the salvation Naya Bingy bring. Yo, it's conscious hip-hop music strictly for the king. For those who don't know, it's a Naya Bingy thing. Hailing the Aya.
Bingy King, Naya, Bingy King, Naya, Bingy King, with the scepter lightning. Aya, Bingy King, Aya, Bingy King, Aya, Bingy King, with the scepter lightning. Fire, Bingy King, fire, Bingy King, fire, Bingy King, earthquake lightning. Naya, Bingy King, Naya, Bingy King, Naya, Bingy King.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka Dejazmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Panafrican Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of the Lion's Voice. Welcome to the Lion Voice Network, and welcome to Lion Voice, our flagship program on the network, where we talk about items that are and topics that are vital to the development of the Rastafari family, the Pan-African family, black people as a whole, humanity as a principle, and in general. By touching the niche, we are able to impact the greater family. A chain is as strong as its weakest link. And that is something that we want to really hone into on today's topic. Today we want to touch forward on the Rastafari man standard. We are in the coronation time. September 27th, we celebrated the elevation of the Dejazmatch Teferi, or the Dejazmatch Tafari, into Rastafari. September 27th, 1916, the proclamation was given. The actual coronation was February 11th. And big up, we had someone in the comments who, made that comment, and we love that because it shows that ones are reading the autobiography, we're seeking clarification. The lion pride. Let me just, before I even go into anything, let me just explain the vision for the lion pride. The lion pride is not a yes man society. The lion pride, we come together, we reason, and we get things done. You know what I mean? The first thing we want to do as the lion pride is stabilize the platform. We have to stabilize our economic base. That's the principle. So, by supporting, by watching, by joining the Patreon, the lion pride serves its duty. Now, within that service, we're going to have a vigorous reasoning, a vigorous debate, vigorous topics, back and forth, sharing information, iron sharpen iron. That's why it's a lion pride. So we are all leaders, and leadership is very key, particularly for the black man in this time. And according to the demographics of this channel is 95% male. So one of the things we want to cultivate on the platform is leadership, because we have to lead families to build a strong nation, to build a strong community, to build a strong society. It starts with strong families, and we need that male leadership to really step up right now. It's Armageddon time. I think every spiritual person, I was just on a call with some other ones from another faith, and everyone is in agreement. Spiritually, you feel it. You know what time it is on earth. So we have no time to waste. We have to connect. We have to rise. Family. So we give thanks. We step out on the YouTube platform to bring forward the lion's voice. One of the things that we have come forward with initially, because it's a solution-based channel, this is about the building of Zion, is the Rastafari man standard. Now we want to break down this Rastafari man standard as we enter the coronation season, which was the highest elevation declared on earth. That means there's no higher elevation that a man can receive than Haile Selassie the first. Throne seal that now going to happen again. I not see it. So one can disagree. I don't see anything like the coronation happening. It's the highest elevation. However, I can achieve heights within the livity of Rastafari, which is a life that has been lived, and we have to examine that life lived. And to that extent, the autobiography. This is a channel, and again, we're going to be entering into a relationship. We'll have the autobiography available here soon, but we're going to be going deep into the autobiography family, because it's a book that, as a Rastafari man in this Armageddon Iowa, we need to be really examining and looking, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned in terms of how you should be structuring your life at the particular time period. I step out on the stage as a Dejazmatch, and as I said earlier, my elders had given I the title of Ras. My Iman community, even to this day, no matter, I could have called myself Dejazmatch till me weak, ones will still forward and call I Tafari, because that's just through the tradition. It came upon I ritical. I chose, after reading the autobiography and really meditating and really going within I myself, to step forward with the title of Dejazmatch. Why? Because I love this tradition and I don't want to miss no stage, and I read about His Majesty life, the life starting with Lidj. Then we gone to the Dejazmatch. Then we gone to Ras. then we gone to Negos, then the Negusemegas. You know what I mean? Each of those stages is a particular to I journey. And within those journeys, there are roles and responsibilities. And that's what we need. That's what we're lacking. We're lacking that structure. We're lacking the focus. We have all of these titles. You walk through, you see Bongo this, Congo that, Ras this, all of these Jadis, all of these sounds are idolful. But we need to give them some meaning and make some definitions. And as the ones them who are closest to the uprising, it's very important in this time that these things have institutional frameworks put around them. Why? Because we have elders that are passing from the earth right now. Their whole archive of knowledge gone. And as they're going, when we look at the youth stage, we see the youth on their cell phones consuming mass amount of information. We can't fathom the amount of images and information our youths them are achieving. And there's a gap. We're not leaving. A man say, yes, we are live, but youths them now, out and live this thing like how it used to be, my family. The youths them are online. So we have to put some structure and we have to put it in a digital format. And I say that as a father of two, having Iron Man own challenges, to entice my youths to continue in this great tradition. You know what I mean? Babylon is bombarding them, and we have to have some framework. So that means when I go out and I see a Dejazmatch or a Ras or a man named Negos, I know that they, is a certain thing, and I can say yeah, and a man can say yes, I was given this title through this group of ones. Cause it should be affirmed, yes, self-love is good, and a man step out and feel like yes, but at some point you have to live up to the sound, or the sound don't have no power. So it's not just title for the sake of title. We burn that. So let's talk about titles. Why the need for titles? Well, we look in all different societies, we see titles. And again, titles typically represent some level of achievement. You achieve something, you're given a title. And this allows for the ordering of society. So, for example, I see a man who's a black belt. I know he can do some karate chop, something. You know what I mean? So titles have a purpose. Titles within Rastafari, they're honorific, and we give thanks for that. However, the danger with that is that becomes so watered down that anyone can just use these things, and it causes confusion as to what is what at your core. And at the core, it should be solid. Whatever you're doing as a king man, that means your core abdominally. It means the core of your family unit. It means the core of the Rastafari family, the different organizations, mansions, gatherings. All of the core of these things have to be solid. That is what we need to be doing right now, is strengthening our core on all levels, all fronts. The roots is the next way to look at it. The root of the plant has to be strengthened. So the root is your family lineage. The root is your, connection with the creator, your passion. These things have to be strengthened right now. So we have to have a system within that core, within that root, to identify the different things. And within that, most societies have a rites of passage program for their children. So, and this is the key, because if you look at the Jewish community, they have bar mitzvah, and one for the daughters them too. You look at the different societies, African societies as well. So it's not just Western societies. Rites of passage is crucial for passing on the community's traditions and culture, and we need that. And so, reasoning with brethren over the years, we've talked about, and big up man like Bingishan, because this is something we're going to be working on. Habisha family. But big up Bingishan as a Bingi man. And we have other ones that we're going to be pulling together to actually work on putting together a comprehensive program to implement some of these things. But I want to use this platform to really just start the conversation and the ideas, because we're calling the family to come home. We're calling on the Lion Pride, other ones, working hours, roll up your sleeves, time now. But we're also having a conversation. We want to rise the level of the discourse within the family right now, from personal attacks and the trauma and the confusion to forward movements. Have to prepare for what is to come. Dreadful times are here and dreadful times are ahead, and we have all of the keys in the family to sustain within a high manner during the calamity that is to come, through the ital livity, through the life that we live naturally. But we have to secure the economic foundation. We have to secure the family. We have to build the infrastructure of Zion. And then we have to make sure we have the correct culture. We need a Zion culture for living a Zion. Because if we come with the same culture, then wherever you go will turn to hell. Psalm 9, people can look into that one. Whatever you are, you manifest that reality. So we have to set some standards. So I wanted to take today's episode to look at the Dejazmatch. What was His Majesty's achievements leading up to the crowning of Ras? And one of the brethren in the comments, and big up the comment section. I used to try to answer every comment. I don't have the time. Give thanks to reach that stage. I go through randomly and I answer. Big up Nkosi. I'm gonna start doing something. I'm gonna have the commenter of the strong. For those who not familiar with Rastafari speak, strong means weak. We don't say weak because you keep talking about each week and you're getting weak. We say strong. So I'm gonna have the commenter of the strong, and the first inaugural I have to give it to Nkosi. Man, go through all of the catalog, or we're going to back episodes commenting, triggering the algorithm, because when you go and you comment on video, the algorithm says, okay, somebody watching it, let me suggest it to somebody else to come in and respond. So when you go through the content and you watch the content, the algorithm is triggered. So Nkosi been in there karate chop the algorithm for the Lion Pride. Whole heap of disagreements, as we say, it's not a yes man factory. But big up Nkosi. The is the first commenter of the strong. But big up, we had a commenter who was saying, boy, he was given the title of Ras, so he was not crowned. And you have to understand that he was given the title of Crown Prince. Crown Prince, with that position carries what they call a coronet, which is a basic crown. So it's a basic crown. Afsa Wilson, as the Crown Prince, received one at the coronation in November 2nd, 1930. So it was a crowning. It was just a very basic crown. So we just want to clear that up. But big up the Lion Pride. I have to big up. We're over 17,000 strong. Going into 1740 at the time of this recording. And again, the channel has taken on a life of its own. We're consistently now over 20,000 views every 28 days coming in. So it's an arena that, of people who are interacting with the content. We're consistently over 2,000 watch hours every 28 days. So 2,000 is a lot of hours to sit down across the viewing audience. So I just want to say give thanks for the growing platform. We just had our interview with Sister Fanai of Rastafari TV. That one is a scorcher.
The servers are where the internet and all websites communicate, and it's the foundation, the hosting is where it's built on. So in like myself, imagine me, I'm a systems architect, like an architect builds you the perfect home. It also has to wire it with plumbing and electrical. So when you register a website, your .com or .net, .org, that's your street address. You may have Rastafari Creatives.com or .org, right? But it
Yes.
will be an IP address. It translates to computer language as 192.76.492.2. So that's your address. Is 123 Main Street is the same as your .com or IP address. Now I come in, I got to install the plumbing and the electrical. That's your hosting. That's the infrastructure in your server that your website is built upon.
Okay.
Now when you have the foundation and the plumbing put in, I can now start to build the building around it. That's the website, and make it look pretty. That's your interior design. You know what I'm saying? But there's a bigger picture behind the website. Some are content management system like WordPress. Content management systems are just what it says. You manage your own content on the fly. You have a front end that the users see, the website, but you also have behind the scenes of your dashboard that you can log in from anywhere in the world as long as you have internet and make changes to your website on the fly. It's very powerful. So
Yes.
Rastafari TV is a content management system.
So I know that that one is gonna continue, and she was saying some powerful things. She's gone viral several times. We're gonna have the clips coming out shortly. So if you haven't watched that one, watch it. And we have so much guests. We have Dirty Bookman coming up, and the brethren who coined the term reggae revival. But we're gonna talk about Bookman Express. That's coming up our next live. We have whole heap of things scheduled. Some surprises that we're gonna be dropping. Some big name. And the network is the superpower, so you never know who you'll see on the Lion Voice, Lion Talk Live. You don't know, so that's why you have to subscribe. We have over 14,000 unique viewers. Only 1,700 have subscribed, so whole heap of people just watching. Just know that we are making the commitment to stay consistent with the content and elevation of the content. Stay with us, lock in, subscribe. Make we deal with the algorithm, so that they push positive narratives about Rastafari. That's what this channel is about. So this channel is not mix up, not blender. This is about the development and the progress and the stories that make Rastafari the global phenomenon that it is. We want to see that represented in the digital space, and this is a platform that is built to do that. So that said, let us go into the Dejazmatch. So first and foremost, Lij Teferi became the Dejazmatch at 13 years old and 3 months, November 1st, 1905. So that's important to know. And with that came, a symbolic appointment to the governorship of Gassa, Mulata. At that time, he could not sit in judgment, and therefore the Fitarari Kulach was administering, doing the actual governance of the province. One of the things that marked his ascension to the Dejazmatch is that's when Ras McConnell introduced him to the officers in his army. And in the autobiography it says before that they used to hail him, yes, but after he got this special introduction, after attaining the rank of the Dejazmatch, that's when the army really started to follow him and love him. And actually this is a key, if for all who have read the book, I end the book with the first chapter of volume 2. Volume 2 of Haile Selassie Ethiopia will detail his journey from Lidj to the Dejazmatch. It will end with him becoming the Dejazmatch. But I end this book with just a jump forward to when at the Ras funeral, and he's walking out of Addis with this massive army behind him, and people are looking and marvel how this little child, has this army that is, any word him say, the army I go carry out. And this is when you read about his ascension to the Dejazmatch. That is when that relationship, that special relationship that had, one of the strongest armies in the nation was led by a child at a time. They say a child shall lead the way, So that is something, in the context. So when I think about that, in the context of a rites of passage program, a youth would start as a Lidj, and then now, after a time, we will go into the Lidj part 2 because it's coronation season. We want to deal with the coronation, so we're dealing with the coronation. So that's why we're talking about from the Dejazmatch to Ras. So, as you come into the Dejazmatch, there would be a gathering, where you're introduced to the community, as a Dejazmatch, whatever that community is that is granting those titles, and these titles would be granted by a community, So that is how it should be. That we're going. So it could be within, for example, the Nyabingi might have its principle. All those who say Rastafari, would be the ordinance or a template that could be utilized to grow Rastafari youths, and how they organize themselves. Our interest should be to cultivate the Rastafari man, to lead the Rastafari future. It's crucial. So while we have all of these big plans, if we're not cultivating the man himself, I and I, if we're not doing that work, internal work, we're not going to go anywhere. All of the plans we have, who's going to execute them? It's going to fall flat. So Rastafari man standard, that is what we are dealing with in the context of the coronation. And some people don't like this. Who is this Ras? Come with something different then and let us reason. But you talk and you criticize. We're tired of that. That's not this channel. This is the action channel. I'm an actionist. So anything that we talk about, we want to see in an implementation shortly thereafter. That is what Actionist is all about. All right. So one of the things that we see that was done by the Dejazmatch Teferi or Tafari was he was given a separate household. So from that time, he left his father's house, or he was not, he's responsible for his own house, set him up with a house. What it would be nice if, as parents, we could purchase property and set up our youths into a house. And then, you get your title of the Dejazmatch. That's part of your crowning of the Dejazmatch, that you're provided with a home. We're reasoning now, how we can structure Zion based on the life and the livity of Haile Selassie the First, who was of the noble class. But if we're saying we're all kings and queens, we're coming to live it upon earth. So you provide your youth with a house, and then now the youth live in the house, and him is now the Dejazmatch. This is a young man now. He's getting ready to find himself a queen, and he's on his purpose. He's hailing Farai, and now we know he's at the Dejazmatch because certain things which we're going to outline, he's demonstrated in his chart. Because the Dejazmatch have to go to leaders. If you're the Dejazmatch, that means you lead people. Why do I say that? Why do I say that? Because you're going to see by the facts of what His Majesty was doing, and we want to relate the responsibility, because title have to come with responsibility and accountability. These are two things that have to go hand in hand with any title. So some of his duties that as outlined in the autobiography, and this is chapter 4 and 5 of the autobiography. Again, go to Frontline Publishing, purchase your copy of the autobiography. We'll have them available with a link from the Lion Voice Network shortly. We'll work out those details with Frontline so you can support the channel and Frontline at the same time. However, until that time, just go support Frontline because legendary status, and we have the Ras Sekou interview up on the channel. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Mighty Frontline, what a legacy. According to chapter 4 and 5, the Dejazmatch Tafari had to listen to the administration of the nation because at that time he went to live in the palace with Emperor Menelik. Remember, this is not a paid position. This is not a man getting any money for this. He's a young Dejazmatch. He goes to the palace after his father dying, realize that the other nobles are getting training. He doesn't want to be left out because his passion, his desire is to see Ethiopia secure. He has too much knowledge to be relegated to a distant province and just doing things. His vision is global. So he's in the palace as a young teenager, but what is he doing? He's listening to the business of administration of the nation. So, as a brethren, how can we relate this to your child as a Dejazmatch? This is your time as a young man to join an organization, to sit on a board, sit on a committee, and listen to what's happening. What are the needs of your community? How can you serve within your community? These are things that I have done. I can feel comfortable to say Dejazmatch, and even Ethiopians in our community call I Dejazmatch, even though they know the historic significance of the title. Why? Because they see I and I on the front line doing the work, as a community person. So that is your time as a Dejazmatch, if you want to take on these titles. Are you doing that work? This is your time to also start a business, because although Ismaisi doesn't speak about in chapter 4 and 5, he inherited businesses from his father, Ras Tafari. That's why we don't just read the autobiography. You have to read other things about Ethiopian history and know what was going on. The economics of it interests I and I just as much as the historical landmarks. So, as a Dejazmatch, business, start getting into business. That's your time to start failed business. Establish yourself within a field of industry. These are the things that should be happening during the stage of the Dejazmatch in the movement. One of the things I found of note in the autobiography is how he described Ras Tafari, noting that he was both loved and feared. And he was very careful to outline why he was feared, so you don't get it twisted. He was feared because he was the person who had to give judgment when people were doing wrongdoing. He would execute the judgment. And he was feared because he was so quiet in his demeanor. He wasn't brawling and brash. And then now, after a time, the people he punished, he would send them gifts to their home to let them know this is not personal. I had to punish you. So that was one of the things that Ras Tafari used to win the hearts of the people. So I want to just, and these would have been things that, because he's noting them during this Dejazmatch, these are the things he's learned from his father that he's implementing. So these are all characteristics that I think we should be mastering within the Dejazmatch phase of Rastafari. So he said that he would help the poor with money. He would act as a mediator between those who fell out with Menelik and Emperor Menelik. He would give prayers at any hour. He noted for any cause, when people needed someone to pray with them, so spiritual assistance. He also pleased the Almighty in his works. And he made note that he also assisted the monks, so he was helping the monks, all of the spiritual man, and he's building those relationships, doing what he can to assist, because he has some funds, so a monk might need a place to stay, he's sorting out things, helping the church, helping his fellow nobleman. He's giving money to the poor. These are the things, let us relate it to the brethren. Same thing. What are you doing to help those less fortunate than the I? You know what I mean? These are things that have to implement during the Dejazmatch phase. Mediator of disputes. A Dejazmatch should be someone who can help to mediate between the family. So mediation, part of the thing, assisting the monks, so some spiritual duties. What are you doing, in terms of your spiritual administrating, helping the spirituality of it can be your household, are you implementing things to build and develop the spiritual development of I and I youth? These are things that we need. Even I myself, I have to spend more time with the youth and on a spiritual level. These are the things that we want implemented institutionally, in terms of the Dejazmatch to Ras. And this, again, we're making the argument that because the Dejazmatch Tafari was doing all these things when he was elevated as Ras, that this now becomes the blueprint or the black print for the Rastafari man in this time to measure himself as we matriculate through the different stages of development. I would say that the highest stage would be Negus, because no one can become Nugus and Nagas, one king of kings, one emperor. You know what I mean? I'm on hold that status. There's one emperor, one empress. Now, there was a letter going around, condemning ones for calling themselves empress. I don't go so far in terms of that. I call, if a sister want to call herself empress, the Bobo Shanti use empress. I don't have a problem because that's their tradition. That's not something that I would do or advocate. But again, in my father's house there are many mansions. We can't let those things divide us, family. Those fall in the category of petty differences, because the things that we have in front of us, food and water security, we have a whole heap of different issues to deal with as a family before we get down to these things. So we don't let that bother us. And again, it comes into the titles. We didn't have a formalized, agreed upon framework in terms of how we structure the chart. So I'm just suggesting putting out some sounds to the family on this topic about the Rastafari man in particular, because that's I and I interest, because to preserve and to have strong families, we're going to need strong black man leadership over these families. So for the ones who say they are Rastafari, we want to set a standard that ones are meeting, so that we don't have a lot of ones wasting time. I see too many brethren who are gifted but don't have discipline. And part of the discipline is just that lack of focus to know. If they knew, okay, I have to check this, I need to, what am I doing in terms of administration, sitting on a board, community, charitable, check these different boxes so that they can be productive members of their community. This is crucial. So His Majesty, during the Dejazmatch phase, was also appointed as governor of several provinces. The province of Selassie, province of Basso, the governor of Sidamo, where he first started seating in judgment. At that time, he had 3,000 men under his command. He refused a plot to enter into a plot against Empress Taitu. While he was there, he reconstructed a church. Um, so he was doing repairs on the religious infrastructure as a Dejazmatch. So again, he's building up the faith. What are you doing as a Dejazmatch to help to build your faith? You know, what works can you point to? These are things that questions as Rastafari man we have to ask ourselves. In addition to the other works that he's doing, one of the key was establishing quarters for the soldiers. So this 3,000 plus army he inherited from his father, they have to live somewhere. And he said that at that time, the officers and the soldiers only came together when military operations were happening. So there was a very shaky chain of command. The officer don't know what the soldiers, who are the soldiers. Soldiers don't know the officer. So they have to build that rapport during battlefield. And that's not efficient. So he made sure that the soldiers and the officers live together. Um, One of the things that happened when he was appointed as, and this was, to the latter part of his time as the Dejazmatch when he was appointed as over Harar, which was one of the major income generating provinces of Ethiopia. So big deal. Organizing the soldiers. He said he had to read the French treaty, understand the French treaty in terms of how Ethiopia is dealing with foreigners, because Harar is a city that have a lot of foreigners. So as a Dejazmatch, are you, studying, educating yourself? How do you deal with, the people outside of the Rastafari family? You should be establishing these relationships by the time you reach the Dejazmatch, so you have a vibrant network. IMAN network is not just Rastafari people. We have a vibrant network that extends far beyond the Rastafari community. So when you say you're the Dejazmatch, this should be part of what you're doing. His Majesty again dealing with the French treaty, having to manage Ethiopia's affairs with foreigners, and he said it was strenuous and onerous. France, I get kicked out of Africa, you see from a long time they've been there. From that time, one of the things that he said he did when he came to Harare was he searched the records, so he never just jump in and try do things. And a lot of times when we're doing works in the community, we just jump in and we don't take the time to research what was done before, what was effective, what was not effective. His Majesty said as the Dejazmatch, that was one of the first things he did, returning to Harar. And there was not a lot available because, the Dejazmatch Belcher, who was there before him, never really take whole heap of notes, probably just ruling by decree because it's the Ancient of Days. He said all of the notes were from his father or his father's son, which was his half brother, the Dejazmatch Yilma. Those were the only notes he could find. And of course, the Dejazmatch Yilma coming off a Ras cunning branch, who was meticulous with notes and these things. So he had to educate himself before he jumped into the community work. And that's very important. And that can be through the form of sitting with the elders and just listening. A lot of the youths, them don't want to listen to the elders, but there's so much value that comes with sitting with the elders, listening to the elders, and getting the elders' wisdom. So it's crucial. Next, he talks about mapping that he did as a Dejazmatch. The item C I'm on building my ecosystem. This is one of the reasons that I'm not quick to take on the title Ras, because a Ras is a man that govern, should be an established businessman with, very financially secure, managing whole heap of people, have a whole network or province of people that can be mobilized within the network. I don't feel I reached that, so the potential is there. But this is the work as a Dejazmatch that has to be done. Because again, this is the work Haile Selassie I show us in our real life. Our thing is not based on a fantasy. It's based on where we research, what we see. So this is so crucial. You know what I mean? He sent his officers on a mapping to find out who could pay taxes. Why? Because if I'm administering a province, I need to know what my revenue, so that I can implement all of these reforms that I want to implement. It costs money to maintain the soldiers, to do all of these things costs money. So I need to know what my revenue base is. Sent out, he said that they came forward after about 3 months and said about 70,000 people could pay taxes. So he reformed the system of how those taxes were collected, because some people were doing there was certain level of corruption, because the tax collectors had so much power, who, in a modern system would be seen as a comptroller or thing. But he details it all in the autobiography, these meticulous reforms, and why it's important that it's there is because he's showing how he's lifting the yoke off of the people, elevating the people from peasant to citizen. We don't talk about that enough when we talk about free the captives. One of the great works of His Majesty, just as great as, UN speech or forming the Organization of African Unity, but is, making a better life for the common Ethiopian, who was under a heavy burden in some of the provinces. But Haile Selassie, or the Dejazmatch at the time, really did that. So these are the things as the Dejazmatch. You're mapping your network. Not everybody is going to be running that. That's not realistic. But everyone can be building a network, because you'll need that to be a successful man. And again, we're talking about the Rastafari man standard. No man stands alone. So as you're the Dejazmatch spheres, these are the things. And there should be a council of older brethren and elders that helping the youth them go through these processes as we cultivate our young brethren. So these are the things that we want to talk about. So he also talks about putting the landowners, the soldiers, and the officers into a registry. So he created a database in those times, Again, this is the boring things that people don't like to talk about, but it's so important to building any institution, any business. You need data, you need mapping, marketing, who are you serving? You need information, family. So this kind of vibration where we're just in the mystic and nobody don't know nothing and you just do things. We're not saying the mystic is not important, but the mystic works better with information, because then it can really maximize the balance, spiritual and material. That is what we're reasoning. We're lacking balance as a family. So His Majesty was doing these things. So by time September 27th comes around, and he's given the title of regent plenipotentiary, heir to the throne, I don't want it to be a mystery why he was selected by the nobles, and by Zaiditu and advisors, because his province is running the best in the nation. His everything is just excellent. You know what I mean? And this level of excellence is what we want for the Rastafari man. That's what I aspire to. That's what we want to see globally. That's what this channel is about. How do we cultivate that excellence within our Rastafari brethren ancestry? But of course, the channel is majority male viewership, so we have to talk to the brethren, and I'm a brethren, so naturally I'm going to talk to the brethren. But it's applicable for the Pan-African, because Majesty was a Pan-African, so it's applicable. And just as a man in general, His Majesty was the king of all kings, so that's where the application of this channel, it spreads out globally. So regardless if you have locks, if you are balded, if you're Rastafari, if you're not Rastafari, there's value. He's the highest, and we come to really examine and to exemplify as we look. So with blessed coronation, next strong, we're gonna look at his crowning as Negus, October 7th. Marks the date that he was given the title of Negus. Again, we're in the coronation season, family. So we're looking at the Rastafari man standard, how this all relates to I and I, how we can utilize this to move the family forward. We're about black male leadership on this channel. Big up the Rastafari, sister in them. You will not find a platform where we elevate the voices of the lioness them more than this right now. anywhere. However, we're not going to just push the sister them out of front for fight I battle. No, the brethren them have to rise, and this is the channel where we're really going to dig deep into that. In addition to all the other content that we're bringing the item, the Rastafari man standard is crucial, because we have to own all aspects. You know, we talk about sovereign and sovereignty and indigenous and autonomous, and these words are used, but if you don't control your food and water, if you don't control your media, if you don't control your valuable resources, then you're really just talking. So we're on that journey. Everything I'm talking about is already in action. That is the beautiful thing, and this is the platform where you will find out. So if you are not subscribed, subscribe, like and share, lock in with us as we continue to move forward. Why? Because the time has come for the lions to tell our own story, and this is the Lion's Voice.
Lion voice. Well, I am the generation of those that chose to see the face of the great I am. With the Emperor Haile Selassie, King Rastafari of Ethiopia, well, he's the almighty creator, in flesh and in bone, and he seated upon King David's throne. Well, I and I came to tell the nation on the microphone.
Yo, let them know righteousness is here to conquer. The bigger king trample down those evilest monsters. Mussolini, he's getting burnt up like ganja. Our nation needs to get stronger. Give thanks, our locks is getting longer. The angel revealed the scriptures, the number 6, verse 5. My antenna channeling the heights of the Most High. Crown king of king, lord of lords. Now you do the math, Rastafari comfort. I and I with the staff, children of Israel. Make sure you step on the right path. It's the 21st century. The wicked about to feel the wrath of the ancient of days. Emperor Haile Selassie, pure in all his ways. That's why I KWASI and I praise the Naya Bingy King. Let the children know the salvation Naya Bingy bring. Yo, it's conscious hip-hop music, strictly for the king. For those who don't know, it's a Naya Bingy thing. Hailing the Aya.
Bingy King, Naya, Bingy King, Naya, Bingy King, with the scepter lightning. Aya, Bingy King, Aya, Bingy King, Aya, Bingy King, with the scepter lightning. Fire, Bingy King, fire, Bingy King, fire, Bingy King, earthquake lightning. Naya, Bingy King, Naya, Bingy King, Naya, Bingy King, with the scepter lightning.
Tell him about Selassie, terrible and dreadful, with a head full of sheep wool. Babylon, you better keep cool, cause he rules. Earth is just his footstool. You think you somebody, but you're only just his tool. Whirlpools, whirlwinds, blow away their sins. Instead of following the shepherd, they were following trends. We set the judgment, they killed too many innocent. Now they got to feel the wrath of the omnipotent, omniscient king with the scepter lightning. From the birds to the creeping things, all hail him. Selassie, I guide I and I, provide for I and I, live inside I and I, so we can't die. Must live eternal I, up in Mount Zion I, side by the Most High. Aya, Bingy King, king of all kings. Can't forget Queen Omega with the scepter lightning.
Naya, Bingy King, Naya, Bingy King, Naya, Bingy King with the scepter lightning. Aya, Bingy King, Aya, Bingy King, Aya, Bingy King with the scepter lightning. Selassie bring the judgment on my enemies. Remember we the Hebrew that you claim to be. The game that you play lame to we, cause you put me in shackles and chains, and that's plain to see. They ain't got no name for we. Haile Selassie, I strike like hurricane rains off the sea.